situation, if there's only one nominee for any of these, you can vote aye versus stating your preference.
Okay.
Thank you.
Careful what you wish for.
I appreciate the confidence, and with that, if you could call the roll, please.
Councilor Brayback?
Aye.
Councilor Lamattina?
Aye.
Councilor White?
Aye.
Councilor Blackstone?
Aye.
Councilor Ward?
Aye.
Councilor Connolly?
Aye.
Councilor Weinstein?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
So the next item that we have is to elect a vice chair, and I would accept nominations for the position of vice chair.
I would love to nominate Councillor Conley for vice chair.
I'll second.
Are there any other nominations?
That's really nice of you all.
So I'm assuming you accept the nomination.
Yes, I'd be happy to take the nomination. Thank you.
Last call. Seeing none, if you could call the roll, please.
Councilor Brayback?
Aye.
Councilor Lamattina?
Aye.
Councilor White?
Aye.
Councilor Blackstone?
Aye.
Councilor Ward?
Aye.
Councilor Connolly?
Aye.
Councilor Weinstein?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Wonderful. So the next item is our committee assignments. The relatively current committee assignments are included in the packet. And last year, it was a little bit of a challenge to nail down our committee assignments.
Mm-hmm.
I guess first I would ask if there are any burning changes that people wanted to make. I know some of you have been on, like you served on the
on budget. I was
budget.
going to ask if Councilor Lamattina would want to be the.
It's up to you. If you'd like to continue doing that, I'm fine with that.
Well, I'm okay with it. Okay, either way. But you're more knowledgeable about the budget than me, so and probably get more information, useful information back to the council. So
No.
all right.
I defer to you.
He's done his time.
All right.
Get me out of it.
All right. I'll stick with it. I'll stick with it.
Sometimes it's better to have a little bit of a separation too.
Yeah.
I will say, especially for the other budget committee members, like because
Right.
they could potentially look at you as being
Mhm.
still in charge, or so.
Okay.
We don't have an alternate for that, right? You did away with the alternate.
Yeah.
Yes, just for CIP and planning.
Did we? Oh, okay, right.
Yeah.
And so there are a couple committees that I would actually suggest that we remove. I mean, highway safety. I think I suggested last year that I think that the chair should actually serve on that committee, because I don't think we can remove the committee.
Right. We
things
need to
come
have a
up.
committee, but I think since I've been here in my 10 years, we've met twice.
Exactly.
So.
And I believe that the was it not on here?
Which one?
The licensing.
Licensing is the chair automatically.
That's okay.
Yep.
That's what I was gonna mention. Ordnance Oversight Committee. We haven't met, so I don't know if we. I mean, that's a.
It's one that I think would meet if needed. Like if we had a large change, probably to review it before it goes to the council.
Right. And then Parking Commission. Do we? Okay.
Yep.
So, and Planning Board, we actually do not have an alternate. So we had removed that, or that by charter, we're not required to have an alternate.
Right.
Right, but I would like to stay on the planning board.
And then my only other, I guess, big question was Councilor Brayback. You've served on the Conservation Commission and the Riverfront Advisory Commission for the last 2 years, and so I don't know if I know it's a big. I think it's a big commitment. I'm not sure time-wise, but I don't know if that's something you wanted to continue.
I am totally fine doing anything, honestly. I do have some interest in the Arts and Tourism Committee, I will say. just to mix it up a bit, but nothing burning. I wouldn't say burning is the word.
Do you have an interest in conservation?
If I say no, does it make me sad?
The one thing I will mention too is that the Energy and Environment Advisory Committee, which I've served on it for I think 4 years since it started. Rarely meets. We tried to meet last night actually and didn't have a quorum, but I would very much like to not be on that committee anymore. So there's that. So I think that the best way to do this is if people could submit their preferences, and then we can kind of go from there and make some. I think we need to make decisions at our next meeting. So like I said, last year it sort of dragged out for a little too long. So I may work with the town manager and make some suggestions, and then we can go from there.
So let's just email you our preferences,
Yes,
the two of
please.
you, or just
Yeah,
you?
I think
Yeah,
the two
just
of us.
CC, yeah.
Cool.
Like a referendum, like top, yes, and okay.
And just a FYI, it's you remain on your committees until such time as there's any changes. So,
Right.
if you're on budget, you stay on budget until the council changes something. If they do,
Meaning continue to go to
Yep.
your meetings.
you can't get off.
Don't skip them between now and the next meeting.
And and I will say too, different committee, and this is one of the reasons why I mentioned like highway safety or the parking commission, are committees that don't meet very often or at all. Whereas planning board, there's a lot of work that has to, that you have to do when you're a rep to the planning board. So we have to take those things into account too. So one person might serve on 3 committees that rarely meet, and one person may serve on 1 committee that has a lot of responsibilities. Okay.
I think it's, I think I actually could serve on the Conservation Commission now.
Oh.
Now, not the planning board.
Yeah. Oh, wait, you weren't currently planning board, were you? Oh, no, that was Scott.
No.
Yeah, now
Like,
now
now
I
it's a
can't
different-
serve on the conservation.
Yeah, right.
For real. That's so funny.
Great, thank you. So the next item is for us to adopt the rules for proceedings and,
I did notice one typo in there that, if you remember last year, Council Dumont at the time amended the cutoff time for meetings, that meetings shall end by 9 p.m. And that passed. And we have currently 10 p.m. in there for the new councilors that council meetings cannot go past 9 p.m. unless a 2/3 vote of the council makes us focus and realizes an end time for council meetings. We never come close to 9, so I think that's, if I remember, that's why Councilor Dumont at the time said amend it.
Until immediately after the amendment.
Right, and then that night we went past 9, right.
Twice.
So that's the only thing that would be changed in there.
unless there are any other proposed changes. So I'd accept any changes that people wanted to propose now, please. I am seeing none, then we are, excuse me, all set to vote. So if you could call the roll.
Councilor Brayback?
Aye.
Councilor Craigford? Oh, sorry.
Aye.
Councilor Sweden?
Aye.
Councilor White?
Aye.
Councilor Blackstone?
Aye.
Councilor Ward?
Aye.
Councilor Conley?
Aye.
Councilor Weinstein?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
The next item that we have is to accept the minutes from our March 16th meeting, and I would accept a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll move we approve the minutes from the March 16 town council meeting.
I'll second.
Any changes, any questions? I'm seeing none, so if you could call the roll.
Councilor Brayback?
Aye.
Councilor Wamatina?
No, abstain.
Councilor White?
Abstain.
Councilor Ward?
Aye.
Councilor Conley?
Aye.
Councilor Weinstein?
Aye.
Motion
Wait, you
passes
forgot
7-5.
Scott.
Blackstone.
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
Aye.
Passes five.
Aye, aye, Captain.
0.
And I will say I skipped over at public forum and seeing that there was no one from the public. I will open the public forum and close the public forum at 7:12. So then the next item that we have is the report of the town manager.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The first item is on the agenda for your confirmation is my appointment of Bart Mcdonough as the new Director of Planning and Community Development. Mr. Mcdonough is currently serving as the town planner for the town of Kittery, Maine. He has served in that position since March of 2020. During his time, he was instrumental in the fast-growing community, working to ensure the proper development for its future. Previously served in similar positions in Salisbury, Massachusetts, and for the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission. The new director's first project will be to hire a new code enforcement officer. We're working on revising the ad and job description, and we begin advertising for this position again shortly. For those new councils, we advertised earlier in the year with no luck, so we're going to try it again now. As part of the fiscal year 23 budget, a new position of town engineer was approved. This position will administer all town capital projects, review plans for the community development, designs, prepares specification, inspects municipal construction projects, prepares asset management programs, and to maintain infrastructure, just to say a few items that they'll be doing. I'm currently finishing the job description with a few other department heads, and we'll advertise for the position shortly in order to have someone on board this summer. The next, the town's work is going to work with the Moody Point Homeowners Association, which agreed to. That's odd, my screen just went by. Which has agreed to apply for a planning assessment grant of up to $100,000 through the Department of Environmental Services Coastal Program and Watershed Assistance Section for Cushing Road, Lumberland Road, Moody Point stormwater management projects. The study will look at the drainage within Moody Point, which is contributing to runoff from and onto roads and outflows to Great Bay. It's the intention to create a better system to lessen the impact on the bay. We're not able to apply for implementation grant funding now, but we believe additional programs will be available for projects in the future, such as the town would be able to, and as such, the town would be supportive in moving forward with applying for such funding or working with the Moody Point community. They have a lot of outfalls that are not going the right place. We want to clean that up and have it both help preserve their roads as well as assist with cleaning up for MS4 and stormwater. So the next item is I met with representatives from the Stratford Regional Planning Commission, the State Department of Transportation to discuss adding a project to the state's 10-year plan. The 10-year plan consists of New Hampshire's funding priorities for improvements to the transportation system over the next 10 years. The plan gets updated every 2 years and is signed into the state law through the legislative process. The project would be begin planning to address the intersection of South Main Street and Exeter Street, or the intersection of Route 108 and 152 for safety improvements. This is very preliminary, but it may consist of closing the eastbound lane of South Main Street between South Street and New Hampshire in the intersection with 108, which would reroute eastbound traffic onto Jerry Ave to create a T intersection down there. And improve the intersection traffic control improvements at the intersection. I've added an image that the Regional Planning Commission put in to my report. Again, this is preliminary. They're going to study it to see if that's the best answer or something else would be. The more traffic we're getting on 152 and 108, it's getting difficult to come onto 108 to head north, and especially with cars having to get up that hill. There's no time for them to respond to be able to slow down if a car jumps out in front. So we're just going to begin studying that, and the Regional Planning Commission is going to be adding it to the 10-year plan. We do not pay for that because it's a state project. They just wanted to add to that. Just a reminder that we will be having our joint meeting with the school board on April 13th here at Town Hall at 6 p.m. We're going to start a non-public session to go over security items with both boards, and then we'll enter into public session immediately after. The superintendent of schools has also asked to let the council know that, and the public, that this weekend on Saturday from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., they'll have a community school event with a ribbon cutting dedication and student-led tours of the 2 new buildings. So they're more than welcome to come. The ribbon cutting at, I don't know enough to, I'll send it into you. One is at 9, the other one's at 10. But there's going to be a bunch of items going on that day. I met with the Director of Environmental Services and representatives for Wright Pierce on the sewer water impact fees and switching those over, removing those as impact fees. And we should be having a presentation by June, either late May or early June, to the council. And what the council would do is then send it to the planning board for their recommendation. Because what it'd be doing is repealing the impact fee ordinance, and we'd be putting in the sewer charge ordinance instead. And now I have a brief,
And it just, I'm sorry,
Can we,
which I'll be going this rule in a second, but yes.
is that announced or is that going to happen?
I do not have it yet.
Okay.
And it's not going to go to the planning board, it goes to the council first.
Okay,
So planning board has no control until the council decides it goes to them.
right. Okay.
And I apologize to some of the new councilors, because you probably already saw this, if I can get this going. This will be a shorter version of the one you saw. Okay. So annually, at this meeting, we like to just do a quick review on council orientation and procedures with the council. And one of the big things is with your new, as you all know, and your new software, is that we no longer have the request to speak buttons on there. And so one of the big things is going to be you need to raise your hand. I'll get into this in a little bit, but that just is part of it. So the first thing is, what's the role of the town council? So the town council serves as the legislative and governing body of the town. I always compare this in the corporate world as the residents are the voters, are the shareholders. The town council is the board of directors, and the town manager is the chief executive officer. Councils are not select boards. Councils have some of the authority of select boards, and the town manager has some of that authority. So you're going to look at papers, or you're going to hear things that, or had experience in other communities, and said, well, I heard this. I may look at you and say, no, you can't do that because we operate under the provisions of RSA 49D, which we adopted in 1991, which made us into a council. The town charter, which we adopted, says the council has all the power of city councils except to adopt the budget and to pass bonds. So all laws, all ordinances, all resolutions come through the council. We do not put things on the warrant for the public to vote on unless it's those two things or an amendment to the charter. State law says the town council has all the powers of city councils and aldermen and cities, and all actions of a city apply to town councils. So I always say Newmarket is closer to government than Dover and Portsmouth than Exeter and Hampton. So what's the role of the council with the town manager? The town council cannot get involved in the day-to-day operations of the town. The town council has to appoint a chief executive officer, which is the town manager, under RSA 49D:2. And the town manager has all authority of a city manager according to town charter and state law, including appoints with the town council approval all department heads, disciplines employees including termination, proposes budget and CIP to the town council, and there's a full list in the town charter. The town council makes the policies, and the town manager and the staff carry the policies out. So I think that's probably the easiest way to remember that. Just remember the council, you have to act as a body. No one counselor can influence the acts of the town manager or any other employee. You don't direct the appointment or termination of an employee or interfere with the duties of an employee. Councilors must deal with employees through the town manager. This is one of the very few things that if you do not, it's a violation and you forfeit your office under RSA 49D:4. So, and I always let the council know, if you have a question, feel free to ask a department head. Department heads, the first person they call right after that is me, just to let me know that they received that question. Because one of the things that you have to remember is that the council has one employee, that's me, and the rest report to me. And the reason that they come to me immediately after is it's difficult having 7 different bosses for me. And then you go to a department head, and I come back with a policy set forth by the council. Then all of a sudden, one other council is trying to say something else. That gets a lot of confusion. So they'll come back to me and ask me the question, and what's going on. And that way too, if it's something that we determine that the whole council should know, we'll then reply and give it to every council. So one council does not have more information than another. It's not fair to the council. Things you need to realize that you're on a team. You represent the entire community at all times. And you're doing this for public service, not to benefit personally, politically, professionally. And you can't turn off being a town councilor. And it's interesting. I know I say that every year, and I should have brought it in. There was an article last night of a library trustee of a town across the border in Maine getting arrested for something. It did not say John Smith got arrested. It said the library trustee got arrested. I hope nobody out here gets arrested, but understand that you represent the community at all times when you're on the council. And just some things that to remember when you're dealing with each other. Set some long and term short goals and objectives as a team. I'm finalizing a day for a goal setting session. It should be in May. We're just trying to get that date finalized. Be good listeners and be good team players. Disagree without disagreeing, being disagreeable. Just because you don't agree on something when you're sitting up here, it's not personal. It's something that you may have not an opinion, but don't take it out of here. You don't need to be angry with that individual forever. You're still going to work on other items as a council for the next few years that you're serving here. Treat each other and staff with respect, again, despite differences of opinion. Make decisions after all facts have been presented and discussed. Refrain from snap judgments. I think I'm going to get into a little bit further. One of the things you're going to hear many times in your term on the council is somebody in the audience coming up with comments by visitors, asking a lot of questions, and expecting an answer right there. Do not answer them right there, because staff has not had a chance to look into the situation. You haven't had a chance to get the information after the staff looks into the information. It's frustrating, but the easiest thing to say is thank you for the information. We'll get back to you, and we'll have staff reply. And again, just realize that actions of councils are as a whole are binding. No council can act alone. Again, if you don't like the outcome of a council vote, don't try to have staff or myself or change it or do something differently after it voted. We're going to carry out what the council as a whole voted on. Role of the council chair. First among equals, they have no more authority than any other councilor. They run meetings and they assist the council in reaching decisions and moving discussions forward. They act as a liaison between the council and the manager and helps resolve conflicts between the two. I will usually talk to the chair if there's something coming up, see if something we should put on the agenda, and usually circle in the vice chair if it's something huge, and then they'll decide whether or not we should do it as a whole council or I can handle it separately. And they also serve as a ceremonial head of town government. They're the ones when we have agencies come in, they'll be meeting and greeting the agencies or dignitaries. Just for council meetings, council meets on the first and third Wednesday of the month, except, which I'm assuming we're still going to do July and August. We tend to go with the summer schedule and just meet on the 3rd. Because the first one's usually around the 4th of July, and the second one just gives some time for people to have some vacation. The agenda closes on Wednesday prior to the meeting at 12 noon. So what that means is no topic is placed on the agenda after 12 noon unless it's an emergency. And we're very strict on that. Department heads now know it, that if it's not in by noon on Wednesday, they're not going to be on the next agenda. They're going to have to wait 2 weeks. We want to make sure we have, there's a few reasons. One, it gives me a chance to review the materials to say, yeah, you have everything there. to go before the council, or no, you're not ready. And I don't like having things go to the council if it's not completely vetted and you have all the information. And if you do not, and we found out that a council meeting that you don't, I'll ask that you hold it over for a third reading or say it on the table so you will have all the information. Again, the council should not accept items at a meeting that we don't have a time to review. And packets are available the Friday before. We'll have an email with a link and you'll be able to download them. We're still, again, this is the first meeting with the new software system, still working out some of the kinks, but we should be able to have that soon. Just a reminder, the council votes on 3 items. Ordinances, which are laws, resolutions, which are policies, and appointments to boards and committees. That's it. You know, the motions for other things don't come up. If we don't put in a resolution, usually don't vote on it. Non-publics are usually before the meeting, and we'll have to specifically outline in 91A way we can do it. And I've gone over most of the comments by visitors. I think the other one is reminder, it's not a two-way dialogue between the speakers and the council members or the town manager. It's one of the frustrating things, but you sit, you listen, thank you for the comments. And each speaker is allowed to have 3 minutes. Just some town council meeting decorum. The chair runs the meeting. Council should only speak when called on by the chair. And here's the big one, raise your hands now. We don't have the buttons. And there's 2 reasons. One, I've chaired many boards of directors, or actually in my time as a local official as well. It's difficult to sit in that chair if everybody speaks whenever they want to. Because when one does it, everybody does it. So you need to raise your hand to be recognized by the chair. The second is, it's difficult for the recording secretary to know who's speaking, unless the chair states first who's going to be called on next, and it controls the meeting, so it's just not a free for all. I've showed many of the the videos of the good meetings and bad meetings, and you don't want everybody just be able to speak whenever. And council should only discuss the topic at hand. If you want to bring up something else new that's not on the agenda, you have a comments by councilors at the end, which is your time, and we'll try to figure out something there. We already went over that. Just, all dressed through the chair can be ruled out of order. Just some other things. Don't interrupt. Wait for the chair to call on you. Don't permit a person directly or question or interrogate other persons in the audience. Don't use first names. Nothing creates a more unfavorable impression on the public than this practice. It's poor hearing manners, and people take it personally when you use their names. If you refer to each other as counselor, it's not as personal as saying, Brian did this, or Megan did this. It's just a buffer there, and it just helps with there. Did that one. Just creating a good impression for the town government. Dress appropriately, show up on time, be polite, and do your homework. We give you a packet in time. If you have questions, ask us ahead of time. We'll get the answers, because odds are you're not the only one with a question. So we'll find that for you. We don't want to play gotcha. That is throwing department heads, myself, under the bus by purposely not asking a question, so we may not have. So, well, why don't you have that answer at a public meeting? It happens. People do it because they want to, try to look smarter than the other people, but it's not fair to the department heads and the staff. Don't try to be a hero. We can't solve all the issues for those who have bad business deals or the self-imposed difficulties. That's the most difficult one. There are times that you're going to hear things, and I'm just going to say, we can't help. And it's frustrating, but we have to follow the law, and we have to be fair. So that's one that's frustrating. It's difficult, but we have to do that. Discourage any post-mortem remarks. When a vote's done, it's done. Don't come back later on and say, I'm going to bring that up again. I forgot to bring this up when we were voting on it last time. It's done. Move on. We don't take staff recommendations lightly. We're here to help. And, I think, most department heads, they know that if I will go through something first and say, this isn't ready. This isn't ready. Bring it back later. So I don't want them to come to the council not with something to embarrass themselves. Council gets frustrated with them because they don't have all the information. And I get frustrated because I have to be the person who mediates everything. So if we're at that point that is before the council, we have 99% of the information in front of you. And questions? Anything on rules, procedures? Like I said, we have that new software program, so it's important to raise your hand. The chair will see that. We'll go from there.
Councilor Conley.
Not really a question, but I think you've sent this out before. Could
Yep.
you send out the most updated copy of this? 'Cause
Absolutely.
A couple things have changed.
Yep.
Raise your hands. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I had a couple. So I just wanted to, I don't think that you mentioned meeting attendance, and, or maybe you did. But if you are going to miss a meeting, if you could send an email. I mean, for people miss meetings for various reasons. They might have a family emergency, you might be on vacation, you might have a conflict, but we definitely need to know ahead of time. So if you could let myself and the town manager know, that would be really helpful, like as soon as you know. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. As far as the raising of the hands and just the overall procedure, it can feel, I mean, much like when the town manager was saying that it's not a dialogue with audience members. It's not a dialogue with it's not a conversation with when we're up here either. So sometimes it feels like it should be, but that's just not the way it works. If you have a question and you might get that answered, and then if you have a follow-up, then you would say, you know, I'd like to follow that up, or can I follow that up? Because much like if we were interacting with, I'm imagining that there's a person there, much like if we were interacting with the public in a conversational way, it can be really difficult for the recording secretary to follow that conversation. So it's too challenging, and it's incredibly frustrating. I will tell you that in my goal, I'm not a great rule enforcer, I never have been, but my goal as chair is to make sure that that rule is enforced this year, and if I have to use the gavel, I'll use it.
And just another thing, if you don't raise your hand, you could be monopolizing the time, and that's not good to the other counselors.
And I think, I know that you did mention that no counselor should speak twice before everyone has had the opportunity to speak. So I think that's really important too, for that same reason. And that was all I had. Oh, one more thing. It's not all I had. And so the town manager mentioned, you know, all of the processes that they have in place as the administrators and department heads. And I just want to remind people that everyone is human, and so there might be a time when something comes before the council and it's not quite ready for prime time. People make mistakes, and you know, just give everybody a break is all I wanted to say. So, and that was all I had. This would also be an opportunity to ask any questions about the rest of the town manager's report.
Actually, I'm going to bring up one other item. While you're sitting here, please sit forward. I mean, I know your parents always told you don't put your elbows on the table. We prefer that. If you sit like this, you won't be picked up by the microphone, and we hear people we get complaints over that.
Mm-hmm.
So please sit forward when speaking.
The microphone's very important.
Okay.
So this is, like I said, an opportunity to ask any questions about the rest of the town manager's report. So are there any questions about any other of the items? Councilor Blackstone.
Yes. So in terms of this report that's going to be coming to the town council on the changing the impact fees, so I didn't understand where exactly it is right now.
I'm still reviewing. I received one proposal. I didn't agree with it.
Oh, okay.
changing some of it, we'll bring it back to the council.
So that we don't expect it in the next meeting or
No.
anything like that?
Probably you'll get a presentation, probably late May, early June.
Okay.
And then at that point, it has to go to the planning board for
Right.
their review for changing of an ordinance.
Right, okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we will move on to committee reports. Are there any committee reports? Seeing none. There you go. So the Energy and Environment Committee did try to meet last night, and we did not have a quorum. So there's no committee report from that either. Oh, please.
This may be out of turn, but do you have a write-up or whatever of what the different committees are, what they actually do? Just a brief description.
Yeah.
And then
Yep.
Some of those items are in the charter, but some of the other committees are not. So yeah, that would be helpful.
Yep.
Excellent point. And then the next item that we have are to consider nominations and appointments, and so we have three this evening. So the first is the confirmation of the appointment of Bart Mcdonough as Director of Planning and Community Development. And I would accept a motion to approve that appointment.
I'll move to approve the appointment of Bart McDonough as the Director of Planning and Community Development.
I'll second.
Did you want?
You have the resume and employment agreement for Mr. McDonough in front of you. He's going to be starting, if approved, if confirmed, he'll be starting Monday, and we look forward to working with him.
Are there any questions or comments? Councillor Conley?
Maybe one that can be answered, maybe not. What's behind his interest in shifting away from Kittery to Newmarket?
Forwarding his career. He wants to, right now he's, as a planner, he's the assistant under a community development director.
Okay.
Wants to go to the community development director.
I will just say he has an impressive resume. He also has big shoes to fill, so we're excited for him to get started, and I think that the reorganization of that office is really exciting also. So seeing no other comments, if you could call the roll, please.
Council Brayback?
Aye.
Council Lamatina?
Aye.
Council White?
Aye.
Council Blackstone?
Aye.
Council Ward?
Aye.
Council Conley?
Aye.
Council Weinstein?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
And the next item is for Annika Bronstein, and I would accept a motion to approve Annika Bronstein to the Ad Hoc Arts and Tourism Commission with a term expiring December 2024.
I'll move to approve Annika Bornstein to the Ad Hoc Arts and Tourism Committee, or Arts and Tourism Commission.
Second.
I apologize to Ms. Is it Bornstein? I put an R in there. Any questions or comments about that application? Seeing none, if you could call the roll.
Council Brayback?
Aye.
Council Lamatina?
Aye.
Council White?
Aye.
Council Blackstone?
Aye.
Council Ward?
Aye.
Council Conley?
Aye.
Council Weinstein?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
And then the next is for Deborah Smith, and that is also for the Arts and Tourism Commission with a term to expire 12/24, and I would accept a motion to approve that application.
I'll move to approve Deborah Smith's application to the Ad Hoc Arts and Tourism Commission.
Second.
Any, Councilor Conley?
Only to say that I think this represents sort of an effort by the Arts and Tourism Commission to kind of refill its ranks. it's been down a few members and has had a real tough time, you know, getting a quorum and getting some things moved forward. So they're really working on that. And I think Deborah's going to be great.
Great. I would say that both applications are just really super thorough, and they just show a lot of potential, so it's really exciting. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, if you could call the roll.
Council Brayback? Aye. Council Lamatina?
Aye.
Council White?
Aye.
Council Blackstone?
Aye.
Council Ward?
Aye.
Council Conlon?
Aye.
Council Weinstein?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
And we have no resolutions in the first reading. Was there any correspondence?
There were none.
And so any closing comments? Councilor Ward.
Yes, just want to remind everyone that this Saturday at the Mill Space, the Wentworth Cheswell Monument event, which was delayed due to the pandemic outbreak, is going to be happening from 7 and starting at 7. Wentworth Cheswell was the first African American to ever hold elected office in the United States. He was from Newmarket. He was also fought in the Revolutionary War. He was also our state's first archaeologist, and he served in town politics for about 39 years, with 1 year where he decided to take a break for some reason. And he actually gifted the town a bunch of land. I think this town hall is part of the land he gifted to us. So anyways, we're trying to build a monument to him. We're trying to get, you know, donations, public input, and, you know, get the word out about him. So again, April 9th, this Saturday, Mill Space, at 7, come on down, we'll have some snacks.
Any other? Oh, Councilor Lamatina.
Next Wednesday's meeting with the school, Steve, you mentioned that before there'll be a non-public session.
That's
Is it
correct.
still at 6 o'clock?
It is. Yep.
And is, another question. What's the expectation? Is there an expectation?
We finalized the agenda yesterday. I could let the council know briefly. It's welcomed. Police department security briefing. I'm going to give the overview because the school district does not operate the same way as the town. So for the new councils, everything you missed tonight is going to be on tomorrow Wednesday, so you're going to see it again. We're going to really ram it home. We're going to review current projects that both the town and the school are working on. I have asked to have a discussion on the town hall / facilities, begin that discussion. The CIP committee requested that I look into the future of town hall, whether or not, you know, we've been having some issues in upgrading the building to the point where a window broke in my office last week because of stress of the building shifting. And we just want to talk about some potential school-town collaborations and what we've done in the past. That's what we're going to discuss.
All right.
Councilor Blackstone.
Chairman, we have been discussing for a while, and I'd like an update on changing Neal Mill Road to a Class A trail. And we've been discussing the signs to the Park and Rec and the elementary school are so faded you can only read them because you're reading the lesser faded signs. And do we have an update on either of those?
I will have an update in the next meeting.
Thank you. Councilor Conley.
And just to reorient myself to the to changing the Neal Mill to a trail, is the question that we're trying to identify whether the question we're trying to answer whether the town council has the authority to pass an ordinance to make that change? Is that right?
You have the authority. It's
Okay.
the process that we have to go through, that we have to figure out, notifying people who may live on the portion of the road,
Okay.
or anybody who has land on it, those kind of items.
Okay.
And then I just had a couple items that I wanted to mention. First, I wanted to extend my gratitude to Chief Mulaski, who brought over the new fire engine for the council to take a look at this afternoon before our meeting started. So it was really exciting. We've had it for, it's been in service for about a week. It's already gone out on its first call. And it was just about a year from the time that we voted on it and to receiving the engine. So it's really exciting to have that new capability for our town. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. And a quick question for Councillor Ward about the Wentworth, about the event on Saturday. Is it a presentation?
Yeah. So we're going to have a bunch of tables with various facts about him because, well, he has such a weird, strong, well, I guess, interesting life. Like I said, state's first archaeologist. He studied Native American remains. He was part of one of the founders of our library. He was part of the group with Paul Revere that, did the famous Midnight Ride. British are coming, British are coming. I believe he also fought at Saratoga. And he held multiple positions in town for over 3 decades. So yeah, you go there, will be multiple panels, and we'll talk about it. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
And possible statue designs.
Oh, nice. Okay. Fantastic. And then I wanted to mention, I've been in touch with a resident in town who also works for UNH. Her name is Sarah Stinson. And we've been in touch for quite a while now regarding the Wildcat Transit bus route. So I don't know if people recall, but there was I don't even know when this came about now. It's been was it a year? That the UNH wanted to stop service to Newmarket, and there was a lot of back and forth, and there were people who got really involved, sometimes some for the first time. But they're doing a trial route deviation upon request to Cherry Hill Apartments because they had stopped serving Cherry Hill Apartments. So to be picked up at Cherry Hill, there's a number to call. This is going to be in the town newsletter. So I won't read the number now. You choose option 2 for the dispatcher to be dropped off there. You speak to the driver when boarding the bus. The trial is going to run through May 18th, so not very long, but it's their way to evaluate and determine if they're going to continue that service. So I wanted to make sure that I brought that up to the community at large. I think that's all I had. Oh, and I wanted to just reply to Councillor Lamatina about the joint meeting. And one of the when we originally started having these joint meetings with the school, one of the reasons that we do it is just to have an opportunity to interact with the school board, because sometimes there aren't very many opportunities for town councilors and school board members to see each other, and we've had issues in the past where we've maybe feel like things aren't cohesive. So this is an opportunity to be more community oriented and not just kind of in our own bubbles. Along those lines, we will also have a joint meeting with the planning board. So we had one a few months ago, and one of the things that we talked about was having another meeting once the new boards were elected. So I will work with the chair of the planning board, who has that been decided?
No,
Not yet.
Next week.
So once that happens, I will reach out to the chair of the planning board to set a date and start working on an agenda. And that was all I had. So last call for any questions or comments. Seeing none, our next meeting is April 20th, of course, with the joint meeting next week, and I would consider us adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're off.